Oh my goodness, I cannot wait to read this next chapter. So we've just found out that Ms. Marvet, when she was cross, when a glove came off, that she said that she bought a glove in the Paris flea market over 90 years. And then she stopped. So she's let the cat out of the bag now, hasn't she? And her hand was like a really old woman's hand. Goodness me. So let's see. So this chapter 25, is called Prisoners. Oh, I'm nervous. They say that eyes never lie, but I think it's much truer to say that hands never do. It was inevitable, in a life as long as Miss Marvet's, that she expose her hand now and then. Still, she hadn't lived as long as she had to let a little spill rattle her. Seconds later, she'd already slipped on a new pair of gloves. As if nothing had happened, she turned to Gloria, who was sitting in a kind of stunned stupor. Do you mind giving us a moment? Not at all, said Gloria, not moving. Thank you, said Miss Marvet, nodding to a spa staff person who'd been standing discreetly nearby. Silently, he helped Gloria out of her seat and led her away as if she were an invalid. Or perhaps an inmate in an asylum. Miss Marvet turned back to Cass and Max Ernest. So, where is the notebook? She asked, her chilly voice now an ice storm. Before telling you how Cass and Max Ernest responded, let me remind you of something that Max Ernest mentioned at an earlier point in our narrative. They were only 11. They were surrounded on all sides by spa staff. They had no idea how or if they were ever going to get home. They had no weapons in their pockets, nor any knowledge how to use a weapon should they have had one. They were not superheroes. In short, they were kids. They had just seen one of the scariest sights in their young lives, although I think Miss Marvet's hand would have spooked anyone who would happen to see it, no matter what age. So please have sympathy when I tell you that they didn't hesitate very long before giving Miss Marvet what she wanted. First, however, Max Ernest looked over at Cass. He didn't say anything out loud, but his expression said something like, "Okay, you were right, I made a terrible mistake, and now we're in the worst trouble of our lives, and I'm really scared, and what should I do?" And then Cass nodded back in a way that said something like, Yeah, I understand all that, I'm really scared too, just hurry up and give Miss Marvet the notebook before she kills us. Really? Was that the alternative? And then, and only then, did Max Ernest pull the notebook out of his bag. Miss Marvet took it, her re-gloved hands trembling. At last! How many years have I waited? Well, now you have it, so I think we'll just go, said Cass, motioning for Max Ernest to get up. You're not going anywhere yet, said Miss Marvet sharply. She opened the notebook and looked briefly at the inscription. As she flipped through the blank pages with increasing irritation, much as the kids had when they first looked through them. This is all? What kind of trick is this? Here, let me look, said Dr. L. He took the open notebook and glanced briefly at the inscription, the bare ghost of a smile crossing his face. Then he handed the notebook back to Miss Marvet. I think you'll find the notebook's quite full, if you look on the undersides of the pages. Miss Marvet looked searchingly at Dr. L. A code? He nodded. So then it's his. It's real, she said with the palpable excitement. Miss Marvet fiddled with the notebook impatiently until its accordion-like pages opened up in front of her. Quickly she scanned the pages, as if searching for a particular word or phrase that she expected to pop out. When she got to the last page, she looked up, enraged. Where's the rest? What did you do with it? We don't know where it is, said Max Ernest nervously. We thought maybe he ripped out the pages. Liar! Miss Marvet screamed. You read it and now you're keeping it from me. Max Ernest cowered, a far cry from the excited boy an hour ago. Cass tried to defend him. He's telling the truth, that's all there was. But Miss Marvet appeared, for once, to have lost control, and she was hardly listening. The secret. I know he found the secret. He was so close, he must have. He kept it from us, but he can't anymore, and neither will you. I won't let you. She gripped Cass and Max Ernest each by their forearms, showing surprising strength in her frail fingers. Tell me what it is, she hissed. Tell me the secret. At the sound of Miss Marvet's words, Daisy, who Cass had not seen since she arrived at the spa, but who Cass now realised must always have been lurking, appeared at the entrance of a tent, blocking the way out with her tall frame. Several spa staff stepped closer to the table, closing in on Cass and Max Ernest. In the eerie light of the tent, their beautiful tan skins looked like hard shells, and their once sympathetic smiles turned to stony stares. Cass's first impression of the spa had been correct. It was a prison, after all. Have you ever been locked in a room hours away from home by people you have every reason to believe are capable of murder, or worse? Neither have I. Maybe that's why I can write about it without shredding a tear. Tragically, Cass and Max Ernest did not have the same luxury. They had to experience imprisonment firsthand. 10 minutes after we last saw them, Max Ernest was pacing back and forth in a state of agitation, extreme even for him. Stupid, 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 he was saying to himself. How could I be so... Will you stop muttering, please? Said Cass. It's really annoying. You hate me, don't you? I mean, I don't blame you. I hate me too. I don't hate you, said Cass in a not very friendly tone. Max Ernest might be admitting his mistakes, but the image of Miss Morvay kissing his forehead was still fresh in Cass's mind. I'm just trying to think how to get past those guys, so we can get out of here alive. She gestured towards the window where Daisy and Owen could be seen standing guard outside the door. From our more comfortable perspective, they were a funny-looking couple, the tall, dour limousine driver and the shorter, freckled butler, but no doubt they were more than capable of keeping a pair of 11-year-old kids from escaping. I knew I shouldn't have brought the notebook, said Max Ernest, still speaking to himself as much as to Cass, but they said it was the only way I could get a reservation. How else was I going to get in? Forget about it. You didn't have a choice, said Cass. But since we're on the subject, what I don't understand is why you had to come here in the first place. I thought you were done investigating. Because I figured out they knew who you were. That's why. So? Max Ernest looked at her like she was nuts. So you were here. So I didn't want them to kill you. Oh, you didn't, said Cass, trying to get used to the idea. Duh. I swear, sometimes you don't make sense, said Max Ernest. Huh? Said Cass. I guess sometimes I don't. And she started to smile. As for the rest of their conversation, well, if some conversations are too upsetting to record, others are too sappy and sentimental. Have you ever heard two people make up after they've been fighting? It's not very interesting unless you happen to be one of those people yourself. I prefer listening in on insults and curses. Let everyone else listen to the apologies and declarations of friendship. I'm sure I don't have to tell you how glad Max Ernest was that he and Cass were collaborators again. However, at the risk of getting mushy, I'll point out that as glad as he was, Cass was more so. You see, as many times as she had tried to save the world, nobody had ever tried to save her before. So she was touched that Max Ernest had come to rescue her, that it almost made up for the fact he had no plan of escape. Almost. Just as the rosy glow of their reunion was beginning to fade, the direness of their situation was again coming into focus. The door opened and Dr. L strode in. No longer the silky smooth doctor who welcomed Cass into the spa, he wore an expression of fierce concentration, as if he was struggling to contain a deep, volcanic rage. Cass and Max Ernest instinctively backed away from him. Miss Morvay is not happy, and neither am I, he said with ominous understatement. We are hoping to find certain information. You mean the secret? Said Max Ernest, a little hoarsely. Yes, I mean the secret, Dr. L said through gritted teeth. If you know anything about it, if you saw anything, if you think anything, I advise you tell me now. Or what? You're going to torture us? Asked Cass, much more boldly than she felt. Perhaps, said Dr. L dismissively. He pointed an accusing finger at the kids. But it's what the secret will do to you that you should be scared of. What do you mean? Secrets don't do anything, said Max Ernest, stepping next to Cass. Besides, you don't even know what the secret is, said Cass, taking Max Ernest's hand protectively. We know certain things, Dr. L coming so close to them that they were backed into a corner. He started listing facts like a man obsessed. We know when the secret was discovered, 1212 BC. We know where, Luxor, Egypt. We know whom, a court physician. We also know that 3 days after his discovery, he was executed. What we don't know is why. He looked penetratingly at the kids, as though he suspected they knew the answer, as though they might even be responsible for killing the physician themselves. Was it because the physician refused to tell the Pharaoh the secret? Dr. L asked in a menacing tone. Or did the physician tell the Pharaoh his secret? And the secrets so enraged the Pharaoh that he demanded the physician's head. Why would the secret make him so mad? Asked Max Ernest. Precisely. And there's more. Dr. L, almost feverish now. Before he died, the physician wrote his secret on a scrap of papyrus, intending the secret to be buried with him. And so it was, until years later when the papyrus was taken by tomb robbers. They had no idea of its value. They may not even have read it, but they died violent deaths soon after. They incited a 40-year war. He searched the kids' faces to make sure they were properly scared. They tried not to show any reaction, but of course they were scared. At least of Dr. L. He nodded with grim satisfaction and started pacing around the room. The subject of the secret lit his face with an expression so vampiric one could almost have imagined a cape billowing behind him. In the early 19th century, he continued, the papyrus surfaced in Prague, where it was purchased as a curiosity by an antiques dealer. He gave it to an Egyptologist for translation. The Egyptologist went mad, and the papyrus was never seen again. As for the antiques dealer, he spent the remainder of his life in the fruitless search for the secret, until he died alone and destitute, prey to a terrible flesh-eating virus. Dr. L spun around and faced his young audience, his eyes gleaming. Now I ask you, does this sound like a secret you want to keep? So the secret is a curse? asked Max Ernest, his head full of nightmarish visions. It's a formula. It's many things. A formula for what? Asked Cass. Never mind that, said Dr. L quickly. Miss Morvay and I prepared all our lives to learn the secret. You are children. It will destroy you. We keep telling you we don't know anything about it, said Max Ernest pleadingly. It's true, said Cass. There weren't any more pages in the notebook, I swear. Dr. L stared at them, weighing their words and their fates. If nobody ever saw the papyrus again, how do you know so much about it? Asked Cass, curiosity overcoming caution. Did Pietro find it? Pietro had a very different idea about the secret, said Dr. L evasively. We did not see eye to eye on the subject. He did? He found it, huh? Said Cass, feeling suddenly very reckless. And you guys tried to get it from him, and then he wouldn't give it to you, you burned down the house, and you killed him. She hadn't necessarily intended to say so much, but now that she had, she felt oddly victorious, as if she'd been waiting to make the accusation all along, and had finally succeeded. Killed him, did we? Dr. L asked, half smiling. Then who has the missing pages from his notebook, if he didn't take them? His eyes turned to steel. Empty your pockets, both of you. Max Ernest immediately complied, pulling out his trousers, odd bits of paper, gum wrappers, a crumpled trading card, a chewed-up straw, and placing them on the table beside him. As Cass put her hands in her pockets, her mind whirled. Earlier, when Dr. L was looking at Pietro's notebook, something had half occurred to her, just the smallest seed of an unformed thought. Later, listening to the way he pronounced Pietro's name, the seed had come back to her as a half-formed suspicion. Now her suspicion was growing into a full-blown prediction. But how to test it? Dr. L looked at her angrily. Didn't you hear me? I said empty your pockets, now. Okay. Cass dug deeper and felt something sticky. Could it be? Yes, it was. Cass pulled the smoochie out of her pocket, making sure Dr. L was watching. She brazenly smeared it across her lips. Then she held up the smoochie like a prize. Max Ernest looked at her like she was out of her mind. What are you doing? He mouthed. Do I smell candy floss? Asked Dr. L, frowning. Yeah, it's my lip gloss, said Cass, with studied casualness. Lip gloss? Let me see it, he commanded. Cass handed it to him. It's made by the Skeleton Sisters, she said. It's just regular lip gloss, but people buy it because of them. Kind of dumb, if you ask me. Dr. L examined the smoochie quizzically, as if it were some unusual artifact, if not an Egyptian antiquity. Then he held it to his nose. He closed his eyes and inhaled, holding his breath as if he couldn't bear the scent to let the scent go. Max Ernest looked at Cass. What's going on? But she just shook her head. Wait. Completely lost in the moment, Dr. L let the smoocher drop right out of his hand. When he opened his eyes, there were some tears in them. Did it hurt your eyes? Sometimes the really smelly ones do that, said Cass, knowing perfectly well that wasn't what happened. No, it was nothing, just something from the past, ridiculous. He leaned down to pick up the smoocher. This is mine now, he said, pocketing it. He'd only bent his head for a second, but it had been long enough for Cass to get a glimpse of the back of his neck, and to get proof of what he was looking for. There was a knock at the door. Daisy entered the room, ducking slightly to avoid hitting her head on the doorway. Excuse me, Doctor. It's the boy. He has a high fever. They think he might not make it. Miss Morvaise says it has to be tonight. Benjamin Blake! Exclaimed Max Ernest before Cass could dart him a look. What are you doing to him? Dr. L stared at them, grim. Miss Morvaise is right. You kids know too much, and maybe not enough. You have 12 hours to decide whether you remember anything at all. After that... He left the threat hanging. Of course, if all goes well tonight, we may not need you anymore, and that will be your bad luck. After he left, Cass turned to Max Ernest. Well, did you see it? What? The birthmark on his neck. It was shaped like a crescent moon. Max Ernest opened his mouth, speechless for once at the thought that horrible, horrible man was Luciano Bergamo. Oh my goodness. I can't believe it. Can't believe what is going on in this story. So chapter 26 is called Benjamin Blake, prize-winning artist. I do hope he's okay.